gonna be so freaking hot. It's 90 degrees outside, and I can't have the AC on when I'm filming because it's loud as fuck. Hey guys! So today I wanted to talk about an important video. If you've been, I know I don't have many subscribers, but if you were subscribed here about 4 years ago, you know that I had a collab video with I Drank the Seawater's Melissa, where she explained what it's like to be in an adult psychiatric unit. And at the time, I had only been in an adolescent unit, so I had only had that experience, but now I actually have the experience of what it's like being in an adult psychiatric ward. So I wanted to kind of give my own experience, and you can compare it to hers because I live in the United States and she lives in Canada, so I know that she had some bad experiences and some good experiences, and you're gonna have that anywhere, honestly, but I just wanted to make this video because there are a lot of things that go on in units, and there's a lot different. I did not expect so many differences when, oh, my nostrils flared. I did not expect so many differences between an adolescent ward and an adult psychiatric ward. Excuse me. So I'll just go ahead and start. So first off, where I live, in my state, in my little area, there aren't many psychiatric units. So when I was, what is this hair? Oh, I think I got it. So when I was a child, when I was 16, there were no child units or adolescent units at a specific hospital. I had to go to another facility that was specifically for psychiatric care. The whole building, there were different levels to it. There were, the children were downstairs, I think. The adolescents were in the middle, and the adults were, I think, on the other side of the building. The whole place was under construction still. It's a fairly new building, but that's where I went when I was a child. I'm not going to tell you where the place is, just for, I don't know, privacy's sake, I guess. But when where I live currently, I still live very close to that psychiatric facility. It is about a 30-minute drive from my house. But where I live, our specific hospital itself, our general hospital, I guess it's regional hospital, has its own psychiatric unit. So it, downstairs surgeries are happening, there's an ER, it's just a hospital with its own small unit. The entire floor, I believe, itself is a psychiatric unit. Just one side is the regular adults, young adult unit, and then there's the geriatric unit. Obviously, I don't know what the geriatric unit looks like, but the whole process is pretty much the same once you go. I went voluntarily as an adult. This happened in March. I went in March. Although going to the hospital itself was not voluntary, in a sense. Going up to the psychiatric unit was completely voluntary. They asked me specifically if I wanted to go, and I said yes. Whereas when I was a child, it was more or less, we've called the unit. If you don't show up, we're calling the police. So it's a bit different. But the whole going to the ER, taking samples, making sure you're not lying about not taking anything or not lying about what you took, etc. I can't figure out how I want my legs to be sitting right now. They're sticky either way. Like I said, it's 90 degrees outside. And I live on the top floor. The whole thing, when I first got in, it was really, I guess, early. I got to the hospital. The ER, I arrived at like 3:30. I didn't go upstairs to the psychiatric unit until 6 a.m. So it took about 2.5, 3 hours to get everything situated. And it was a little odd because I did have to give them my clothes for inspection, but I was given a gown, so I had to walk around my whole first day in a hospital gown. I did get bottoms. There were like pajama bottoms from like charity, like Goodwill pajama bottoms. And I had no bra at all. I didn't come with a bra because it was late at night and the incident happened when I was about to go to sleep. Like I said, the incident happened at like 3, and then within a half hour the police and the ambulance were already there. And I had to go through all the checks, all that stuff. And that only happened because we called 911. Well, my roommate called 911, as opposed to when I was a child, it was therapist's decision or I was driven to the ER. So when I first got there, it was very odd. They let me keep my piercings, which was a huge confusion for me because when I went to the adolescent facility, I had to take my piercings out. At the time, I had different piercings, actually. I had snake bites. If you've watched some of my old videos, you would have seen my snake bites. They are no longer in. I took them out for mostly because at the time I was trying to get a job, and now I got these piercings. I have my tongue, my septum done, but I'm currently unemployed, so I'm just, living the life. But they let me keep them in, which I thought was a little confusing, and it's not like they didn't know. They actually asked the nurse that was there checking my vitals, checking everything I had on my body. I had to be wanded. It was all out in the hallway, too, in the middle. No one was supposed to be awake. There was a patient out in the, hallway, but it was actually, no one was awake yet, other than him. So many knots in my hair. So then I got showed to my room, told my roommate's name, and I went to bed for 45 minutes before I was woken up by my roommate's vitals getting checked. And that was something really interesting, was that they would give vitals before you even woke up. Whereas in the adolescent facility, we woke up, got dressed, did all of our stuff, and then we went into the commons area where they would take our vitals. But in the adult ward, it was them coming into our room at 6:30 to 6:45, waking us up and taking our vitals as we lay in bed. They'll even let us lay down sometimes. They did. I always sat up because I prefer for myself to be up and sitting when my arm is getting squeezed to death. And I took, just the regular vitals, just blood pressure and temperature. And then we went back to sleep for about 25 minutes, and had to get up for breakfast, which that was pretty standard, except they don't tell you really anything at all. Whereas in the adolescent ward, we constantly had nurses yelling down the hall, like, hey, it's time for this, it's time for group, it's time for art, it's time for gym, blah, blah. Where here it was, oh crap, what time is it? Or running to the nurse's station being like, hey, what time is it? What? Trying to get a look at the clock, and then them being like, what are you doing? And just trying to be like, okay, well, group starts at 10, it's 9:55, I'm just gonna go into the commons area and sit. Now, if you are in the commons area and it's time for a group, but it's going to be in a different room, then either the therapist for that day or the teacher for that day will come in and be like, hey guys, just so you know, we're having it in the other commons room. So yeah, it was kind of like that. We had to figure out our own schedule. We were given a sheet of paper with our own schedules on it. So it was organized, but we had to organize it ourselves instead of someone telling us what to do, which I thought was really nice. Although it's mandatory to go to these groups in order to pretty much get out, it is not mandatory to go to them. So if there's a day that you can't get out of bed, or if you're in pain or something, and you miss the group, they're not going to come hunt you down and force you to go. Just the person who's doing rounds will see that you're not there, and then they'll check your bedroom and write down if you are there. That's basically it. They also, alternating patients, they will check vitals halfway through the day. So, like Monday, the first half of the ward will get their vitals done, and then Tuesday, the second half of the ward, we get theirs done. And so, basically, it's just getting up every day, doing the exact same thing over and over again. And there are some things that you don't have to go to, the facility that I went to mainly deals with drug and alcohol abuse. They are a psychiatric facility, so they do deal with depression, anxiety, DID, bipolar, all those things as well. But their main thing was drug and alcohol, which is not why I went. But they had Drug Anonymous and Alcohol Anonymous days, and I was allowed to skip those because it was actually kind of funny, because the first day they asked me if I was going because I was skipping it, and I was just sitting in my room asleep because I had only gotten 25 minutes of sleep that first night. And that was really nice too. They just that first day, they don't count it against you if you skip anything, because they see it as kind of a getting used to it day, which is very nice. I prefer that as opposed to forcing people to do something. It gave you that freedom that helped you kind of recover quicker. But they asked me if I wanted to go to Drug Anonymous, and I was like, no, I don't need to. You didn't find anything in my blood work, in my pee, you're fine. And then on Sundays they have church, and I was allowed to skip that as well. And it was actually kind of interesting. It felt so crazy. Like, the thought of it felt crazy. I'm sorry if you can hear dogs barking. It felt like normal when I was doing it, but the thought of it sounds crazy. Where we were allowed to, the hall is one complete, like, square, technically, not a circle. And if we didn't want to participate in something, we were allowed to go outside that room and just walk the hall. And a lot of the times we did that during our free periods just to get exercise in, because we had a gym class, but it really wasn't much of anything, which is, and it's fine. I really liked all of the, like, the group therapist people, and the gym teacher. He was really, really cool. The only person I had trouble with was my psychiatrist. You know, she wasn't telling me things. I had to go to the other, to another therapist, actually. The therapist that wasn't even mine, because there are 2 doctors there, and there are 2 therapists. I think 3 therapists if you count the one guy. But I think he's just there for group instead of, like, if you needed one-on-one. The sun just went behind some clouds, so it might have just gotten a little dark. I'm so sorry. But I went to them and was like, I need to know my case files. She's not telling me stuff. Read it to me. And I think that they honestly forgot that I wasn't there for drugs, because even, like, the therapist that I went to was like, and you're gonna stay clean, and you gotta blah blah blah. And when I said, but I don't do drugs, she kind of gave me a sure look. I was like, read my files, you just... So I had some issues there, and I had to stay 5 days, even though I was told that I only needed to stay 3. Even though I was completely 100% improving, everything was fine, whatever. I have to readjust my... Oh, it hurts. But yeah, medicine is pretty much given the same way. You go up to a little window, they scan, our wristbands had a little QR code thing on it, and they scanned it, and then the computer would be like, this is all the medicines that this person gets. Let's pop that out, take it at the window. And then something that was really nice was that some people were given a choice of if they wanted to take their medication, certain medications, not all. Oh, I did it too tight. Certain medications they had to take. Like, I took my antidepressant and vitamin, and I did everything. I kept, I didn't say I don't want that today, but people were like, hey, I'm feeling really anxious, can I have my anti-anxiety medication now instead of later at night? Because you have medication 2 times a night for certain people. I only had it once a day. It's about 10 a.m. is when we got medication. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner were about the same. Visitation was a bit different. where we had rotating visitation days. So the front of the ward would get like Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, I believe. And then the back of the ward would get Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then Sunday there was no visitation. That seems wrong. I feel like someone visited on Sunday for me. I'm not sure. I was released on a Monday, I believe. There were some issues that I had, like on my own experience with them. They lost my clothes, but I think that they just weren't looking hard enough, where I was like, hey, I have a black tank top and some red shorts. You can cut the strings off the shorts, I don't mind. If you don't know, you can't have strings on any ward. That goes for any age. You cannot have strings. They are a danger. I had to have mine cut out of my coat, which they were able to find my coat, which was in the bag, so I don't know how they lost my clothes. And they said that they were going to wash my clothes and never did, which I didn't really care about. Whatever. I just wanted a tank top on underneath my shirts because I felt really naked without a bra, so I wanted that extra layer. Even right now I'm wearing a tank top, even though I have a bra on and my shirt. I've always just been like that with tank tops. The differences between the adult ward was our rooms, and how we were allowed to keep them. I remember in the adolescent ward, we had to make our beds every single day, but they had a lot more. Like, we had a comforter and sheets, but here in the in the adult ward, we had just like a little, like a blanket that you got from the ER if you said you were cold. If you know what those feel like a grandma. Grandma's like heavy, not the itchy one, not the fluffy one, just like the heavy kitchen towel feeling one. Plus some sheets. And one pillow. But I actually, at night, I would bunch up my coat and sleep on it. I remember every time a new nurse would come in, they'd be like, what the heck is happening under her head? Rounds were about the same for the nurses for both unit. But in the room, we had these shelves. We had these shelves in at the adolescent facility as well. But we basically weren't allowed to keep anything in the adolescent facility. But in the adult ward, we could have basically anything. We were allowed to have our shampoo, our conditioner, our soaps, our toothbrush, our toothpaste, books, pencils, pens. They didn't really give you like pens and pencils, but they weren't going to take them away from you. We had one in our room and no one really cared. You kept your shoes, although if you did have laces on your shoes, they did have to cut them, or at least not to cut them, but take them out. And they kept them behind the desk, and they put ribbon in instead. I actually did not wear shoes the entire time. I just wore the non-skid socks because I love those things so much. And then you could have, you had everything. You had your towel, whereas at the adolescent facility, all of your toiletries were put into a bucket, like a shower bucket caddy thing, and stored away. You had your name put on it, and they stored it in the laundry room. So that was a bit different kind of a shock to me that you were allowed to keep so many things in your room, because when I was 16, all I had was a book and my stack of like hospital papers and activity sheets that I did at the hospital. That was it, except for my clothes, obviously. And we had our own bathroom as well. That was kind of a shock to me that we could keep our own bathroom in our room. It was very basic. It was just a toilet and a shower. The sink was on the outside of in our room. The sink was in our room, attached to the wall. On my roommate's side, I had the window bed, which was actually really nice to have the window bed, because I got to I love people watching, and the hospital where I live is right next to the college campus, so I was just people watching all day, and it was really nice. Honestly, that was really nice, watching people looking up at the stars at night. It was really nice because when I went to the adolescent facility, I actually had the same room both times I went, and the exact same bed, which was the far bed from the window, so I never got to really experience that. Another thing that was different was that we were allowed to close our door. And I don't know if this is like this with every adolescent facility, but where I was as a child was, you were not allowed to close the door at all. But if we were like, I'm naked, I have a roommate, I don't know, I'm getting a shower, I'm gonna close the door. Which was nice, although a lot of the times when nurses did their rounds, some of them would leave it cracked instead of closing it all the way if they saw us in there. Some did close it back, which was nice. So it gave kind of a confirmation that, yes, we were allowed to have it closed, we weren't just being rebels. And it was very interesting seeing so many people, because my roommate was in her, I believe, 50s, and I was 21, so it was very, very different, different types of people. I met people that were just turned 18, and there are people, adults, 30s. It was very interesting seeing that whole mix of people instead of just, what was it? I can't remember if it's 12 to 17 or if it's 13 to 17 for adolescents. My back hurts. But it was interesting seeing those differences. If you have any other questions about anything, I can let you know. I have a story time after this that is going to be really interesting about my time in the ward. So please look forward to that. I am still horrible at outros. I never practice those. Excuse me. So I'm really sorry that this was a long video. I'm horrible at speaking, but I hope you guys have a lovely day. Like, comment, subscribe, all that shit. Yeah, peace.